Hello, I'm Rebecca, the founder of triiyo, and welcome to PEP Talks with triiyo. triiyo is the leading solution for workplaces to support their people during every life transition, from starting a family to retiring and every life event in between. On PEP Talks with triiyo, we chat to our expert partners for advice on how to best navigate these common, complex, and often messy life stages that happen during our working career. Keep listening as we connect the dots between life and work with the simple aim of education and empowerment. After all, life happens at work. Today on PEP Talks with triiyo, we're speaking with Lisa Saunders, nutritional food and health coach and co-founder of Own Your Health Collective. We're going to be discussing women's health and in particular perimenopause and beyond in the workplace. Lisa, welcome. Firstly, hello.
So, hi, Rebecca. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you. I've been waiting to speak to you. Firstly, could you tell us a bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Well, thank you. I will. So, as you mentioned, I'm a nutritional health educator and certified nutrition food health coach. I'm an advocate for whole health learning and deeply passionate about women's health in particular. And as you mentioned, I co-own a business, Own Your Health Collective, with my business partner, Natalie Moore. Now, we work with various women, men, and especially workplaces, be they private, public or government run, to help them create an environment where health and wellbeing becomes a key focus so their people and businesses can thrive. And as you hinted at, we have a particular interest in supporting and guiding women back to themselves during these formative years, living and working years, especially in that perimenopause and beyond phase. And we help women, be it individually or through workplaces, develop whole health lifestyle plans around that innate biology that affords them the opportunity to really explore the advantages of their life cycles and how that transcends within their lives, their careers and their health. And that's it in a nutshell, really.
Amazing. Well, I think the first thing we should start off with, and I should know this because I am actually entering this perimenopause phase of my life.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
What is perimenopause and what is menopause?
Okay, so I might start with what menopause is.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll go back and you'll see the connection. So menopause is defined as the last or final menstrual period that a woman experiences. It's essentially the conclusion of your reproductive years. It's where the ovaries stop producing those hormones known as estrogen and progesterone. And it so essentially occurs when you haven't had a period for 12 months. But you won't know this until the 12 months has passed. So it occurs retrospectively. So we'll speak to women that goes, oh, but then I got my period at 8 months. Go, yeah, well, you're going to go all the way back to the start and count down now. Like, you can't just, which is really frustrating, right? Because you're probably really enjoying not having, a monthly period by that time, I would imagine. So after that, a woman is actually classified as postmenopausal, and the average age is around that 50 to 52. It can be earlier and it can be later. So perimenopause, menopause doesn't just happen. There's obviously a lead up to it that's called perimenopause. And it's quite funny because a lot of women think that perimenopause is menopause. They say, oh, I'm in menopause, but usually it's, they're still going through these ups and downs that perimenopause is famous for, as far from a hormonal state and what our body's experiencing. So it's that transition to the day of menopause. It can take, on average, 5 to 8 years to happen, and it varies again from woman to woman. Some women can be 10 years. I myself, I'm 52, and I can really pinpoint when I think I started in perimenopause, with having the benefit of hindsight, and I reckon I was around 42. So I'm not menopausal just yet.
So you're saying the perimenopause phase could last up to 10 years?
Yep. And for some, it could be 5. It just is very individual. And this is, a reason that we'll talk about, but it's really important that women are talking about this because it can be really hard for some women to go through, and it's such a long time that we're experiencing it as well. So it will generally start on average in your mid to late 40s, but for some it can start to whisper in their late 30s. And I always say, be aware of the whispers, because the whispers are things that just start having you think, oh, that's unusual. That hasn't happened before, or I'm a little bit late or early with my period, or it's a little bit longer or shorter, or it can be that you've got this big mood disturbance just that comes out of the blue. It's just little whispers that start coming through, and really important to take notice of them.
So just on that,
I just explain.
Yeah, on those whispers, are there any other symptoms outside of your period or changes in your menstrual cycle? Is there anything else that we should be aware of that might be like, oh, this could be a sign?
My next point, actually. So other symptoms can be, there's like 35 plus symptoms that can be, perimenopause and menopause. How lucky are we? So that includes things like hot flushes, night sweats. Breast tenderness can be a really, really big one, especially before your period. It's a big giveaway, and even more than what you may have experienced previously. Irritability, sleep difficulties is another one. Changes in libido, changes in weight. They're just a few. So, I'm not painting a great picture here, but the work that we do is all about helping women through that lifestyle element to actually be able to, to deal with those, in addition to any medicalisation avenues that they want to explore. And, I'm not a doctor, but we work hand in hand with doctors and specialists around that as well. So as I mentioned, that one of the biggest telltales is that change in periods. There might be some irregularities that, especially you've been really regular through most of your life. Many women describe it as being very unpredictable, and no two bodies are the same. So what you feel can be very different to what other women feel. And, there's about 20% of women, if I remember the stats correctly, that don't have any symptoms at all. And I'm a little bit jealous of those women, just quietly.
Yeah, how can I be one of those women?
That's it. And I think what I find is, I don't know if it's sad's the right word, is that women aren't educated on this, and they don't know what these symptoms are. And often some will think, I'm losing my mind, there's something wrong with me. It can definitely affect our mental and brain health, because the changes in estrogen and progesterone that we experience through this time has a really big bearing on our brain health. And in fact, there's been some really amazing evidence and research has just come out of Monash Uni, explaining how that dip in estrogen can be really, really crucial in relation to a woman's mental health and dementia and things like that. So it's, it pays to be looking after ourselves as early as we can be, through our puberty, menstrual years. But, let's be honest, it's really not high on the priority of a lot of women that early. But the sooner that you look after yourself around understanding your body and what you put into it and how you move and sleep, the better the transition into perimenopause and menopause that you will have.
So we spoke previously around, I just want to look into that mental health piece, because, hormone fluctuations really do have a direct impact on our mood. So when women are going through this and they're potentially in the perimenopause phase and they don't actually know that that's it, what is happening to them when they're going to their doctors and they're sort of saying that they're, feeling down or they're having these mood swings? How are they being treated in the medical system? Is it, are doctors really aware? Is it, are we looking at, could it be this, or are they treating them for other things?
Yeah, look, really good question. And that research that I referred to, I was lucky enough to attend the Australasian Menopause Summit in the weekend just gone with Natalie, my business partner. And it's all new research. It's really coming through now. And what was pleasing is this is research that's been delivered to doctors and GPs and specialists. So it's really, I think, when women are looking to try and see someone, a specialist or a GP around, what they think could be menopause, it's really important to make sure that GP has some knowledge around it. There are some GPs that will say, look, it's not my area expertise, and I think that's great, because then they'll have people that they can refer them on to. But there are also some GPs many GPs that are well versed in it. So there is, I'm not a doctor, but there are some thoughts around possibly whether antidepressants are the right course of medicalisation, that treatment that needs to be done here. So I think the first point of call is that women go along to their doctor or specialist, and always trust your gut as well. So if a doctor is sending you away, say, look, here's a script for antidepressants, and sleep more or do this more. They're all lifestyle things, obviously, but if they're not really getting to the crux of the problem, I would encourage listeners to seek another specialist, because often we hear so much about women saying, I just don't feel like they were getting to the point of where I needed to be in relation to what I'm feeling. And we've actually had clients that have gone to different doctors and not been able to get to the where they needed to be in relation to treating how they're feeling. And then once they've worked with us and they've found different doctors that can actually treat them quite holistically, and through that medicalisation, well, then it's a different thing altogether. And I will say too that menopause hormonal therapy, more in the doctor's realm, but there is a really good case for actually looking deeply into that and seeing if that particularly suits that individual woman, because there are some women that can't have it. But it definitely did feature in this research around its beneficial use, and when women should possibly be thinking about starting it. And again, there was a lot of talk around looking at the lifestyle and family history behind these women and what they're feeling. So there's quite a number of things that they could be thinking of.
Yeah. And so how does the menopause phase differ from the perimenopause? Does it just get a hell of a lot worse, or do other factors come into play?
Again, very individualized, but a lot of women find that once the hormones, because they're basically going from here, if you think about pre-puberty, you've got very sort of low levels of hormones, and then in puberty and beyond, they're up, obviously we are made to reproduce, and but it's also, even if you don't have children, that hormonal health is a really good scorecard on where you are health wise. So then they sort of go up, and then through that perimenopause phase, they start going up and down. There's this real erraticness happening, and then you get to menopause, and they flatline again, and there's just a nice hum going along there, and and that's where things like your lifestyle and menopause hormonal therapy can really help. And they certainly don't look to encourage you to put the hormones back into the level in your body of what they were. It's just more about that humming and being able to support you. We're living another 30, 40, some 50 years after menopause. So you should see some of those symptoms subsiding. Unfortunately, there are some people or some women that still have some pretty full-on symptoms, but for the most, my reading and my discussions with others shows that they do peter out, definitely.
So is there, outside of hormonal therapy, what else can women do to support themselves and their bodies through this change?
So much.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so much. So lifestyle wise is, what our business is built on. So we operate along the pillars of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, and how they actually all come back to the self, being you, the person. So, when I talk about physical, I'm talking about movement, sleep, nutrition. Really, they're big ones in relation to how women can manage themselves through this period. And then they also, go towards that mental health as well, and that emotional health. So things like, obviously moving is great for our mental health. So, there's the connection there. The sleep is obviously really important for our emotional and mental health. And let's face it, in perimenopause, sleep can be very, very hard because a lot of women do find that upset in hormones has a big bearing on, they were probably great sleepers beforehand, and then this really upsets the apple cart. So definitely, movement, exercise, yoga, breathing strategies, and just getting out, like there's some great research around healthy aging that's just been released here in Melbourne by a Professor Cassandra Sazetsky, and she's done a 30-year review of women that started back in the I was going to say the 1900s, the late 1900s. So 19.
Well, this has been going on for that whole time frame.
Well, they should have.
This is not a new phenomenon.
That's right. But she's followed these women over a 30-year period, and what she's found is that movement for healthy aging is the number one thing that we should be doing. And it's, no surprise there. Her book's amazing, a very easy read. But what it does tell us, it reaffirms all the things that we know that we should be doing or actively making part of our regular habits. So, eating leafy greens, there's no one diet that's amazing. A Mediterranean way of eating is probably the most fantastic way that we could be really helping ourselves through this healthy aging period of our lives. And it becomes even more important once we hit perimenopause to making sure we're not smoking, we're moving our bodies, we're sleeping well, we're eating well. The list goes on. So all that lifestyle and even that spiritual health, which a lot of people would akin to being quite woo-woo. Natalie and I always have a bit of a joke about it, but Nat's more the spiritual partner in our business relationship. But I love it. I think taking time out to really honor yourself and doing some meditating or mindfulness or all of those things is very spiritual, but it actually has a flow-on effect to helping with your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. So they're all interconnected. So if you can sort of think about 4 little overlapping circles that are those pillars I talked about and a self in the middle. And it's really important that women and men actually work out, okay, so I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on my physical health. And then from that can be a real, I get that right, I'm sleeping better. And then my mental health or my emotional health improves. So really, really important during this time. And I'm glad you brought it up because the medicalisation of menopause isn't just what we should be looking at as a solution here. I see a menopause specialist myself, and the biggest thing that she will say is that I can prescribe and help you through that medicalisation of menopause, but it's no good doing it unless you are actively doing the lifestyle elements that go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, the MHT without the lifestyle. And expect that, not to see any gains in relation to how you're feeling and how you're going about your day.
Yeah. What really comes up with me there is giving women the permission to look after themselves.
Absolutely.
Because, I always think your vibe affects your tribe, right? How we show up. And I am woo, I will say I'm a Reiki master. So this kind of space is very natural to me. But how we show up, yes, it's, looking after ourselves is great for us. But beyond that, how we're showing up every day, whether it's at work or at home, it does have a ripple effect on those around us. So the more we look after ourselves, the better it is actually for everyone around us. So, we should take, that time and almost be selfish in self-care and in making sure that, we're looked after, because if we're looked after, then, particularly as, as a woman or a mother within a family, we do often do so much within that family unit that ripple effect is only going to have a positive effect on everyone around us.
You are bang on there, Rebecca. It's funny because I always say, a few things coming into my head as you're talking there. Happy mum, happy sons. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah.
And my kids know it, and my family. And, I'm lucky I can afford at that time to take that time out for self-care because it's really important for me and how I function. And funnily enough, Natalie and I run these monthly Thrive networking sessions with a bunch of business women, and it's all about supporting them in their business, because if they're not thriving, well, their business isn't thriving. And this was the exact topic of conversation yesterday about about burnout and taking time out to have that self-care. And that's very much a lot what the work that we do is around taking out that self-care, taking time out to actually put these lifestyle elements into your day, week, month, whatever it looks like. Is it time? It could be just taking 30 minutes out to read a book that you love, or having a hot bath. And it's nothing difficult. It's just that we tend to look after everyone else. We can tell you what X, Y, Z, son, daughter is doing, what their health is like, and we're caring all about them. But we're forgetting to care about ourselves. And it's that history that's happened before us in relation to how we think that we should be doing life. And as Natalie would say, we're shooting all over. And we need to actually come back to ourselves and put that self-care element in there, definitely. So it's a good point.
We're going to pause here, and we're going to actually do another session on menopause in the workplace, because we're almost run out of time for this session, but we will definitely do a part 2. So it will be linked in the comments below. But just on, if we could just wrap up this one, could you just let us know what you do within your business, and how that helps women in particular in terms of their self-care? And then we will drop into session 2, and we'll talk about menopause in the workplace.
Beautiful. So our business is we work online and in person, and we basically do one-on-one coaching with women, and we have coached a few men and a few kids as well, but generally work with women around that one-on-one coaching, group coaching in the nutritional, mindset, mental health, wellness areas. Natalie does yoga. She does online yoga. So there's that movement element coming through, and there's very much that emotional health and mental health that we also do through our coaching. So primarily through the coaching, and then we also do workplace services, which we'll talk about when we catch up next.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa. All of Lisa's details will be in the comments below. So if you are looking for support, then definitely reach out and come back for part 2. Thank you. Thank you for listening. To find out more about how triiyo can support your people, visit triiyo.com.